Oh, oh, oh. Oh, wait. Wrong tomahawk chop? Chief Osceola is ready to plant that spear on the 50. But this year, will he be doing it with a team with a lot of offseason hype? Or will Mike Norvell's Florida State Seminoles continue to improve under his tenure? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Long Snap Podcast. I am Hunter Waldrop, and today we will be previewing and predicting how the Florida State Seminoles will do heading into 2023. First things first, don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It takes 5 seconds to do. It's free and it's very, very much appreciated. Leave a comment. Tell me how I can improve these videos and leave a team you want to hear me do. I'm going to try the best to do as many as I can within the time that I do have, but any certain requests that you guys have, let me know. So, there is a lot of attention for Florida State heading into 2023 with good reason. Last year, the Noles went 9-3, ended up going 10-3 after a bowl game win in the Cheez-It Bowl over Oklahoma. And they have a very, very, very good head coach in Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell, this is his fourth season, and this is a coach who, when he started, it was very, very, very rocky. Not very many wins. He started off with 3 in his first year in 2020, 5 in 2021, and then last year, the big catapult year, Florida State wins 9 games in the regular season. This was a guy that the program had to be very patient with, and just trust the process. I mean, heck, 2 years ago, guys, Florida State lost to Jacksonville State, who is now in the FBS but was an FCS school at home early in the year. And everybody knows about Florida State's history. Bobby Bowden, longtime coach, Hall of Fame coach, national championship coach, just a great, great tenure in the 80s and the 90s. And then you fast forward and you had Jimbo Fisher, who had Jameis Winston win the Heisman and a national championship in 2013. 2014, Florida State makes it to the playoff, loses in the Rose Bowl to Oregon and Marcus Mariota, and then Jimbo Fisher goes on to Texas A&M shortly after that. Then you had Willie Taggart, and now we have Mike Norvell. So there was a stretch after Jimbo left up until last year where Florida State went from a prominent school and a prominent football program to in the dump. But now Mike Norvell has made the change after 3 years, this being his fourth year as a head coach, into making Florida State a force to be reckoned with heading into 2023. So last year, like I said, 9-3. Started off the year, beat LSU, won a stretch of games, and then right in the middle of their schedule, they played Clemson, NC State, and Wake Forest. And those were their 3 best opponents that they had to play besides LSU, and they lost all 3 of them. Then the back half of the year on a hot tear, and then, like I said at the beginning, beat Oklahoma in the Cheez-It Bowl to win 10 games. So let's go over a few things that Mike Norvell has done as far as bringing players in and what he has to work with going into this year. He has the 6th ranked transfer portal class heading into 2023, according to On3, with names such as Keon Coleman being the headliner, in my opinion. And then you also have the highest returning production out of any other FBS team in the nation, which is going to be huge considering your team went 9-3 last year. So, before we break down the offense, the defense, and all of that nature, go to your social media, go to your Instagram, go to your TikTok, go to your Twitter, type in longsnap_hunt. I'll be there. The same blue logo you see right now on YouTube. Also, big news as of yesterday and today. And this is being recorded on July the 12th. So, but big news, big news. We are now available on Apple Podcast and Spotify. So you can listen to this, just the audio, on Apple Podcast and on Spotify. Um, just type in the long snap with Hunter Waldrop and we should pop up. If not, good reason to have the social medias. All the links to those shows will be in the bios. Now, the offense returns 8 starters. Like I said, highest returning production, and when you're returning 8 of 11 starters from last year, and you went 9-3, that's very. You have a lot of hope. You have a lot of hope as a fan, and as a coach and as a player. The 10th total scoring offense, and they were 16th in scoring. They were 10th in total offense, 16th in scoring offense. So both very uh, good statistics to have heading into a season. And why were they 10th in total offense? Why were they 16th in scoring offense? Well, let's see what Alex Atkins, who is the fourth. This is his 4th season. He came with Mike Norvell from Memphis. This is 4th season as the offensive coordinator. Let's see who he has to work with. Everybody knows the name. If you don't know the name, what are you doing? Jordan Travis, 2nd in Heisman odds heading into 2023. That's right, 2nd. Caleb Williams first, being he won the Heisman last year and is returning to Southern Cal. And not Drake May. Depending on where you look, they could be tied. But right now, Jordan Travis, quarterback Florida State, is 2nd in Heisman odds. He threw for 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions, which is huge because a lot of quarterbacks can throw for 2,400 yards, or 3,200 yards, rather, sorry. And they can throw a reasonable amount of touchdowns. Jordan Travis, in this case, throwing 24. But not a lot of people can have the touchdown interception ratio that Jordan Travis had with 24-5. Not turning the ball over and not causing penalties are the 2 biggest reasons why teams can stay in games. So he also likes to run around. He can make plays with his feet. I think you saw it in the LSU game and then other big games like Oklahoma last year. Just a very talented player. And there's a reason why Florida State is got a lot of offseason hype. There's a reason why Jordan Travis is 2nd in Heisman odds. It's because the kid's got it. He's a very talented player, and I'm excited to see how he does in 2023 and how he works with his returning starters that he's got coming back. But before we get to the returning starters, I said that Florida State had the 6th ranked transfer portal class in 2023. And I think the headliner, like I said earlier, Keon Coleman. He's a transfer from Michigan State, a wide receiver. And this kid's a baller. He was the 2nd best receiver on Michigan State last year behind Jaden Reed. But this kid's going to be very good. He was a very highly touted or recruited in the portal when he entered in the spring. So I know there's a lot of teams where you're like, oh gosh, are they going to pick him up? Are they going to pick him up? Because this guy can change the game and change a team. He's a big name, big game player. Keon Coleman. It's one of those players. If you don't know his name before this video, after you watch it, it's one you're going to remember because he's very good. And you're going to hear a lot about him. Jaheim Bell. He transferred in from South Carolina. He was a tight end, but he was more of just a versatile position type of guy. He could play anywhere. I know he lined up in the backfield a few times, lined up in the slot, but labeled as a tight end. And if he can stay healthy, man, he's a dangerous player. Go watch the Tennessee game. Go watch the Tennessee game. Jaheim Bell, difference maker for South Carolina last year, and he was probably the best, if not a top 5. He was the best tight end in the portal this past class, and this is a huge get for Mike Norvell and Florida State. Also, Wilson, 43 receptions, 897 yards, and 5 touchdowns, close to that 1,000-yard mark. He was the leading receiver for Florida State last year, and Jordan Travis has got him back. So the chemistry is already there. Um, and I think 897 is going to be an easier number to break because of the chemistry and because of how much of an impact player he is. At running back, you got Trey. Excuse me. At running back, you got Trey Benson. He had 900 plus yards on the ground last year, around the 920, 930 range. He was averaging 6.4 yards per carry. If you're averaging half of a first down every time you touch the ball, you're a good player and you're a good running back. He finished with 9 total touchdowns, and he's just a straight up workhorse. Doesn't back down when you go in between the tackles. He's got the speed, he's got the talent, and it's just another weapon that Florida State has on this offense. And it's insane. It is crazy how good that this offense can be heading into 2023, at least on paper. Offensive line, not a weakness. 3 of the 5 starters from last season's team returned. And on top of that, you have depth. Mike Norvell, transfer portal. Get used to hearing me say it this video. 3 experienced offensive linemen through the portal. So now you have 6 total who have in-game playing experience, and and you have the recruiting classes that you brought in up to this point. So they have depth, they have talent, and Jordan Travis has the wall and he is protected. Opposing defenses better be careful and better watch out. They better have really, really good DBs, because if not, Florida State is going to be a dangerous, dangerous team. Now let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Florida State's defense last year was 20th in the country in scoring defense. So you have a top 15, or a top 20, I should say, rather, scoring offense and a top 20 scoring defense. Putting points on the board, that's only going to improve. Like I said, highest returning production, 6 transfer portal class, 3 transfers on the defensive line. And the thing about defensive line, guys, and I know if you watch the better defenses in the country, like Georgia and like Alabama historically and Clemson recently, on defensive line, you don't have your front 3 or front 4 or whatever it is defense you're running playing every single play of every single down. You'll see even in the first, second, third series, you got 6, 7 guys rotating in and out. So when you add 3 in the portal and you're returning 2 or 3, that's huge. That is huge. You're just adding on to the depth that Florida State needed and they got. Adam Fuller's the defensive coordinator. He was a defensive coordinator at Memphis when Mike Norvell was there, came on over, and he stayed here ever since. And he's got a lot of production returning. The first player I want to kind of talk about was the number 1 overall DB in the transfer portal this past season. His name is Fentrell Cypress. He was first team All ACC at Virginia. Virginia, not a very good team, and not a lot of potential for Virginia heading into 2023. He's like, let me get out of here. He comes to Mike Norvell. He comes to Adam Fuller. He comes to Florida State. And Fentrell Cypress is going to play corner for the Noles heading in 2023, and he's going to be a stud. There's a reason why he was a number 1 corner in the portal. Good team or not, these recruiting services do recognize talent when they see it. Here's the thing, guys, is that Florida State has 4 defensive backs returning. 4. Not 1 corner or, both your safeties. No. 4 defensive backs returning that played last year. And so even in an area where they didn't really need depth, they went out and got the best one they could get. It's phenomenal, and it's obvious that Norvell wants to focus more on the portal, and his recruiting pitches are working to these guys who have in-game experience, and they want to win now. And I want to talk about the defensive line real fast and a little bit of the front 7. Coming off the edge, you have Jared Fuss. He was first team All ACC last year. Very, very talented guy. Can play outside linebacker, but more of that edge rusher, defensive end type of guy. At defensive tackle, you had Fabian Lubbock, very experienced guy. Now, like I said, defensive lineman in and out of games, in and out of middle possessions, but still a very, very good and a leader type of player that I think every defense and specifically defensive line needs. And then you had the ACC Rookie of the Year, Patrick Payton, who had 5 sacks last year. He's the second on the team coming playing on the defensive line. So defensive line, another position where Florida State, they added, what was it? 3 transfers on the defensive line. They already have 3 phenomenal ones. So they're ready. They've got it on at least on paper. This team is ready. And if we've seen anything from Mike Norvell, 3 wins, 5 wins, 9 wins. So they are improving little by little by little every single year. They got the second highest odds quarterback to win the Heisman Trophy heading in to 2023. Watch out for the Noles. That's all I got to say. So, how does the betting public see Florida State doing in 2023? We already talked about the betting public talking about Jordan Travis. They have him over Drake May. They have him over other very talented players. The only guy he's behind is a guy that's already won the award. But as far as the team goes, depending on where you look, they're between 9.5 and 10 wins for the over/under win total heading into 2023, which is the highest they've had in Mike Norvell's tenure and the highest they've had since Jimbo Fisher has been the head coach at Florida State. They are the ACC title favorites. Yes, not with the second best odds. No, they are favored to win the conference over Clemson. And Clemson has ran that conference for the past 8 years. They've won 7 in a row. And Vegas like, nope, Florida State. Well, we're going to put them as the odds-on favorite to win. And one thing I do have to say is, like, before I break down the schedule that I have right here in front of me, as far as ACC play goes and the teams that it consists of, guys, let's be honest here. It's Clemson, and it used to be Clemson and everybody else for a while. Now it's Clemson. You got Florida State, and then you have everybody else, at least right now. Now, Mario Cristobal at Miami could be doing some things down there to make them a little bit better every single year. And there's a few others, like Pittsburgh 2 years ago, won the ACC. Can anybody name a player on Pittsburgh's roster right now? Wake Forest, they had Sam Hartman. They've been good for the past 2 years. Now, last year they won 6-7 games, but the year before that they were in the ACC championship. Can anybody name a player not named Sam Hartman who is now at Notre Dame that has played at Wake Forest for the past 2 years and is currently on their roster? You can't. So the consistency is never there. You just never know. There's always a few teams that every single year they come up, and I think another one last year was Duke. Duke won 8 games last year, started off 5-1. They could have been 6-0, lost to Kansas, but another good team to watch out for. That is a team that's on Florida State's schedule, but it's just there's no consistency and there's not many hurdles that this team has to overcome heading into 2023. Producer Preston, you may pull up the Florida State Seminoles schedule and let's break it down. So week 1, they take on LSU in Orlando at Camping World Stadium. Now, this was one of the sloppiest football games I'd ever watched last year. It was terrible. Not a very, very solidly and fundamental game played. Now, Brian Kelly, first game at not Notre Dame, LSU. Mike Norvell, though, I think what gave Florida State the edge, and LSU improved so much through the year. So, not to take, and so did Florida State. It's not to take anything away. They both went 9-3 in the regular season. They both had great, great seasons. But I think what ended up giving Florida State the edge last year is that they actually played in week 0. They played FCS opponent Duquesne in Tallahassee. and then they played LSU. LSU didn't get that luxury of playing in week 0. So with all that being said, and I think yes, I know I talked about Florida State having depth and they have talent and they're a very, very good team, but LSU's better. LSU's better. And I'm going to take LSU to win this neutral site game in Orlando to start off 1-0 and Florida State to start off 0-1. But hold on. Florida State fans, don't leave the video. I promise you're going to like it at the end. Southern Mississippi. You get them at home, easy win. FCS opponent, obviously Frank Gore Jr. is there, and he's very talented. But besides that, and just talent differential, should not be an issue. Easy win. On the road at Boston College. Boston College had two things going for them last year. Their quarterback, Phil Jekovich, and you had wide receiver Zay Flowers. Well, Zay Flowers got taken in the first round for good reason. Phil got hurt middle of the year. He's now at Pittsburgh. And there's nothing else going on in Chestnut Hill. This team's not getting good anytime soon. I don't care if it's on the road. Florida State's winning this one. Now you're at 2-1. And here's a big question mark game. At Clemson. In Death Valley. The ACC Death Valley, that is. Yes, Clemson has not had the same track record of success the past 3 seasons that they had in the late 2010s. I don't care. I don't care. Clemson wins games at home. Or do they? They actually lost their last home game after having a 25 game home winning streak. They lost their last game at home last year to Little Brother South Carolina. So everybody on the Clemson train about how they don't lose at home, yeah, they do. They most certainly can, and I think they most certainly will when the Florida State Seminoles come to town. And I'm just not sold on Clemson as a team this year to be able to return to the same level that they had been over the past few seasons. I'm not saying they're going to be a bad team. I think Cade Klubnik has potential. He has potential to be good. Just like Garrett Riley has potential to do something with this team. Now, if he did something with that TCU team, it's going to be pretty hard not to do what he did at TCU in Clemson. Excuse me. But this is week 4 of the season. I think it's going to take some time. And I'm going to take Florida State to win. So now I got you at 3-1. You head into your bye week, which is pretty early on in the season. And then you have a 2-game stretch after that where there should be 0 issues, especially considering you have your bye week this early on. You take on Virginia Tech at home and you take on Syracuse at home. Virginia Tech, ever since Frank Beamer left, essentially irrelevant. I know they had Justin Fuente over there. He doesn't do a whole lot, gets fired. You bring in Brent Pry, defensive coordinator from Penn State. Last year you lose to Old Dominion. You win 2-3 games. Not very good. I don't see them improving anytime soon. Give me Florida State. And then you take on Syracuse and Dino Babers, who I would have predicted was on his way out last year, who I thought was going to be terrible and Syracuse was going to be looking for a new head coach. Well, he started out 6-7-0, ranked in the top 25, and it's like, how do you fire a guy who does that? But then they ended up losing the back half of their schedule. I'm taking Florida State. There's no way Syracuse comes in to Tallahassee and beats this roster that Florida State has assembled. Then you have Duke. It's your 3rd straight home game. And Duke's good. Duke's returning a sophomore quarterback who's now going to be a junior. They got Mike Elko in year 2. And this team's good. And if I would have had it my way last year, I promise you I much rather would have watched Florida State take on Duke and the ACC championship than North Carolina and Clemson. because we all know how that game went. It was terrible. This would have been an entertaining game. These were the second or the third and fourth. Actually, no. Florida State was better than North Carolina last year, and I think Duke arguably was too. So I don't know. I would have really liked to have seen this game take place last year. Um, Duke's good. This could be a fall asleep game. We're on a roll. Um, I'm not gonna pick the upset, but I'm just saying if Florida State's gonna get upset at home, Duke is the team that's gonna do it. Then you have a 2-week road stretch at Wake Forest and at Pittsburgh. Like I said earlier, Wake Forest, they lost Sam Hartman. Yes, they made it to the ACC title game, but last year they fell off. They only won 6, 7 games. And now Sam Hartman's gone. I think they're going to come back to reality. They're going to go back to the same old Wake Forest we always know. It could be a challenging game. It could be another fall asleep game. I just don't see it happening. I don't see Florida State falling asleep in any of these games, but certainly not this one. Give me the Noles. You go on the road to Pittsburgh. This could be a challenging game as well. Pittsburgh actually sold out their crowd against West Virginia last year in week 1. I was shocked, or it was close to sold out. I know they use the Steelers Stadium, but a team that you can watch out for, Pat Narduzzi. He loves to run the ball. If anybody watches Pittsburgh football, Pat Narduzzi runs the ball, and he's going to run it until you get tired of watching it. You just never know, but I don't think the talent's there. I think Pittsburgh's going to be a really good team. I think they're going to be right up there in the top half of the conference, but I don't think they beat Florida State. Then you have a rivalry game against Miami at home. Not that it would matter if this game was played in Miami. I think Florida State would outdo the Miami fans. I really do. But man, back in the 90s and the 80s, both these teams were in the early 2000s. Both these teams were very, very prominent, and this rivalry used to mean something. I wish it would still be that way. I think it's going to be a tough game. I do see Miami improving this year. I do see year 2 of Cristobal going well. They are going to make a bowl game. They're not going to go 5-7 again. And I think Tyler Van Dyke's he's going to go back to 2021 form. Maybe not in full, but close to it. But Florida State's winning this game, guys. They're better. Florida State's better. They're going to go through the trials and tribulations of the offseason. I just don't see them losing these games. There's not a team that can match them in the ACC on paper, except for maybe Clemson. And then you finish out with North Alabama and at Florida. North Alabama FCS opponent. That's going to be a win. And then you finish the season in the swamp at Florida. Now, this is a game I do want to talk about because, like I've said up to this point on paper, Florida State should not win. Or Florida State should win, and this game should not be close due to the talent differential that Florida and Florida State have on their rosters. But I do want to bring up the Texas A&M LSU game from last year. LSU was ranked in the top 4. If they would have beat A&M and then beat Georgia, they would have gotten in. They would have been the first 2-loss team to get in. All they'd do was just win those next 2 games. Now, we know they didn't beat Georgia, but they didn't. It wouldn't have mattered if they did because they went into College Station, a tough place to play in the SEC, and they choked. Devon Achane went off. It was the best game Connor Wegman had played at Texas A&M, and it was one of the worst games LSU played all year, and they got their 3rd loss of the year. In Texas A&M, they weren't playing for a bowl game. They were just playing for pride at that point. Florida could be in a very, very similar situation. I'm very, very questionable on Florida and how good they're going to be, especially with the loss of Anthony Richardson. And now you're bringing in Graham Mertz. I'm just not sold on them. I'm not sold on the Gators this year. But it's in the swamp. And just like last year in the A&M LSU game, I think this game could be very similar. Florida could be fighting for bowl eligibility. They could be fighting for their 7th or 8th win. They're not really playing for anything. While Florida State, they're playing to keep their playoff hopes alive if they only have 1 loss. So you just never know what the situation is going to be. And the Swamp's going to be loud. It's a rivalry game, and anything can happen in these rivalry games. I don't see how Florida wins though. Um, the state of Florida does run through Florida State. I don't think Florida's going to be very good, like I said. Even though it is on the road, I do think Florida State comes out with a win, even though I think the game will be closer than what some might think. And that'll do it. I got Florida State going 11-1, and with a trip to the ACC championship game for the first time since 2014 for the Noles. It's going to be a very, very exciting year. Uh, they could beat LSU. I wouldn't put a dime on that game because I truly do not know which way or how the ball's going to roll. I could flip a coin, and that's who I would choose to win. I do lean LSU, but if Florida State won, I wouldn't be surprised. Same thing with Clemson game. I chose Florida State to win. Would I be surprised if Clemson won? Absolutely not. Those are both very losable games while also being very, very winnable games. So yeah, that'll do it. Florida State, highest amount of production coming back for the 2023 season. Mike Norvell, fourth year, looking to make his first ACC championship game and a run at the playoff behind Jordan Travis playing quarterback with the second highest Heisman odds heading into 2023. Florida State, a team to watch out for heading into the season. Now, I've already brought up Texas A&M once, but there wasn't a poll or a person who used the internet last year who truly thought that that Texas A&M rather wasn't going to be good. They were all Texas A&M was ranked in the top 10 everywhere. They had the talent. Everybody was buying into them. Go 4-8, 5-7, whatever it was last season. Not a very good team. Did not live up to any sort of potential or any sort of hype. If there's a team that's going to do that in 2023, I think it might be Florida State. I'm not saying they're going to do that. Obviously, I just chose them to go 11-1. But if there's a team that's going to be talked about a lot in the offseason and have a lot of potential heading into 2023 and to put out a result like Texas A&M did in 2022, I think it's going to be the Seminoles. Guys, don't forget TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, longsnap_hunt. I'm there. I post every episode on there, the links to them. Don't forget, hit the YouTube, hit the subscribe, hit the like button, leave us a comment, tell us how we did. Apple Podcast, Spotify, leave us a review. Subscribe to us on Spotify, leave a review and a 5-star rating on Apple Podcast, or if you think there's a lot of things I can improve on, which I know there are, but anyway, we can get the show improved. Leave a 3-star rating if that's really how you feel, but give a description on why it's 3 stars and not 5 stars. Thank you guys for everything you do. Don't ever forget God first and God bless.